What's up, everybody? Matt Maran here for another weekly update. So there's lots of exciting news to go over here this week, but before I get into the news, I first want to mention I'll be doing my usual weekly live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday night, so join if you can. It's always a good time hanging out and talking cars with all of you. But getting into the news here this week, the biggest news is that Hyundai has officially confirmed they will build the N Vision 74 concept. And this was a big announcement along with a variety of other big announcements that Hyundai gave during their Investor Day presentation here this week. And that's the biggest one for the enthusiasts, though, is the Vision 74, along with other Hyundai N and Genesis Magma models, will be among 21 new EVs they plan to launch globally by 2030. As for what would power the Vision 74, that still is up in the air, at least publicly, because it's mentioned under the EV section of this presentation, and there's no mention of the vehicle in the hydrogen portion of their presentation, which is several slides long as well. It doesn't say anything about it there. So my guess is hopefully they came to their senses and decided that this makes the most sense as just a regular EV instead of this hydrogen thing, which is cool from a science experiment kind of, standpoint, but, just going to be so hard from an actual ownership standpoint. How are you going to refuel these things with so little hydrogen stations out there and stuff? So I'm hoping that, just be, copy and pasting the Ioniq 5N powertrain. That would be amazing in and on its own. There's no need for anything more, honestly. But the most recent rumors did say back in December of 2023, they claimed that only 100 of them would be built, only 70 of those would even be for street use, with the other 30 being used for racing, and that would be hydrogen powered along with the electric thing. It's a combo, and that would do 800 horsepower and arrive in 2026 supposedly. So again, they could probably get away with the hydrogen thing if there's only going to be 70 of them, and they'll all just be collecting dust in collections for the most part anyway. But, I'm hoping that, again, this is something that's more mass market, that's actually able to be enjoyed by more than a handful of, multimillionaires and billionaires that hide them away for, again, collecting purposes. But anyway, and I also hope that, they not only bring over this N version, but they ditch the wing and all the aggressive aero and just make a regular good-looking coupe and do like an electric 240SX revival kind of thing, and just do it for those who don't need to have the N power levels and be perfectly happy with the 300 odd horsepower you get in a regular, Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6. Like, that'd be great in a coupe, being just a nice extra body style for that platform. So we'll see what happens, but anyway, interesting to hear that part of it. But moving on, there's lots of other big future Hyundai product announcements here. They mentioned first a unique brand for the high performance and luxury EVs, and I'm thinking this might be a production version of those very extravagant X concepts that we saw variations of, where there was a convertible, there was a speedback, as well as a regular coupe. And there was also rumors of, a Lucid partnership also happening as well, but there's no info on any of that stuff. But, if they are going to do another like high-end brand, that would be my guess for that. As for other EVs from that 21 that they're totally planning here, 6 of them will be Genesis models, and some will be Hyundais, of course, ranging from compact to large size, they say, along with their Casper sub-brand for affordable EVs, which I believe is only in Korea. Likely won't come to North America, but with a lot of other companies racing to get out a $25,000 EV and working really hard on it, if Hyundai already has some stuff here with this Casper brand, why not bring it to the States? And especially if it's a separate brand, you could potentially sell it outside of a dealer network and, loosen up that whole thing too. We'll see. But anyway, they also announced that the Ioniq 7 will now be called the Ioniq 9, and that it'll be built at their new Meta plant in Georgia, in America here, which comes online to build the Ioniq 5 later this year. And so that means it'll hopefully, if tax credits are still a thing in the future, it will qualify for those here. And, great, they're bringing some American jobs here with it as well. And they also aren't slowing down on their EV rollout either, which, they're not the only ones that are holding to their plans. But, basically everyone else is, pulling back on their EV plans and slowing everything down and all this. Hyundai isn't, and this is actually commendable, because originally it sounded like the Genesis brand was kind of backpedaling on their EVs, and they're just going to do hybrids instead. But this presentation made it very clear that they still fully intend on going full steam ahead with EVs, and their CEO actually gave a little more info on that. But their plans are to go from the current 8% of North American sales that they have this year for EVs, or expected this year, up to 17% of their total sales in North America by 2027, and then ramping up a lot quicker to make up to 46% of their sales by 2030. So still not even half of their sales. We're not talking about any kind of EV takeovers here. But, basically, a 50-50 split almost by 2030 here. Along with, they say, continuing to develop nickel, cobalt, manganese batteries and solid-state batteries. So they're both those technologies they're working on here. The nickel NCM batteries are mostly for lower cost stuff. And they said it'd be between 70 and 100 kilowatt hours storage for those. And the solid-state ones, I think is a little further off. But in Bloomberg's reporting here, Hyundai CEO also said that ultimately we think it's the right move to maintain our path to EVs. But we do need to improve charging infrastructure and ensure we tackle range issues with improved technology. And he also added here that the company aims to address the EV deceleration by expanding its hybrid and new extended range EV offerings and gradually increasing EV models by 2030 when a recovery in EV demand is expected. And I'll talk more about those range extenders and hybrids in a minute, but it's interesting that I think they're the first at least first car company to make a bet on when they expect EV demand to pick back up again. It is still growing, of course, and the market share is continuing to grow, but obviously at a slower rate, but they're thinking it's going to ramp up, around 2030 or so. And I think that's a pretty good bet. We're seeing a lot of companies, Toyota and Subaru and all those types of companies, along with GM and others, doing a lot more stuff here around 2026 into 2028. And so, Ford's affordable EV is supposed to come sometime around there. Ford's new trucks that are electric and stuff, that's all, they just said 2027 here last week. So I think it's a pretty safe bet, that you give those things a year or two to kind of marinate, and then by 2030 you'll have some healthy, strong demand with these vehicles all being out there, and the early adopters again want to get into the second gen technology as well, which will also help to jumpstart this next wave of EV adoption, I think. And so I think that's it might come a little sooner in my opinion, but I think 2030 is a pretty safe bet there for that. And lastly, he said that while the rate of electrification is slowing, we're still seeing stricter environmental regulations around automobiles, which means we can't just sit and watch dwindling EV sales. Extended range EVs can tackle some of these issues, including consumers who are hesitant to purchase EVs because of their concerns over charging. And so it sounds like they're taking a very similar approach to Toyota, which I think is a winning approach of having EVs, having these range extender EVs or very advanced plug-in hybrids, and then have the regular hybrids as well. But moving on to those extended range electrified vehicles, they'll have 2 e-motors for all-wheel drive with a gas engine that's only used to charge the vehicle. It will not be able to drive the wheels. So they say that these vehicles will actually be price competitive over EVs, most likely because they'll be using smaller battery packs and have, I guess, gas engines that are fairly cheap to build. And the setup will debut in a D segment SUV in North America in 2026 here, with about 80,000 or more units planned here. And they're also building this vehicle, by the way, in the United States as well. So more of that American manufacturing here. That many units makes me think that we're talking about something like a Palisade if they're talking about a D segment SUV. Because Palisade, I believe, still does around 100,000 units a year. So it's ambitious to even hope that 80,000 of those would be, this new range extender thing. But, that's a lot of vehicles to be planning, again, for just what I believe is one vehicle. They say that it might get split off, I think, and I saw other reporting saying that maybe Hyundai and Genesis would both get, a version of this. So maybe, split up between the two brands. But still, 80,000 units or more is a lot, and that's great. And so this possibly makes me think that they're going to be applying the same kind of methodology as Ram is taking with the Ram charger, where that takes a regular Ram 1500, but then make sure that they fit in not only a battery pack, but also the Pentastart V6 in that to only charge that battery and give people kind of, some training wheels for their first EV experience until they're ready to ditch the engine completely. And I think it makes a lot of sense. We will see, how the market reacts to the Ram charger once it's finally on sale. It's not going to be cheap, but, I think if they can take the new Palisade, which I think should be coming here, I think next year, maybe a little sooner than 2026, and then, you know, a year or two later, you bring out this, you know, plug-in hybrid thing, which, by the way, coming in 2026 means, you know, we're almost into 2025 here, just a few more months to go here. So we're talking a year and a half away, or maybe 2 years, depending on, again, when they launch in 2026. But coming pretty soon for this technology that, you know, we've been hearing, you know, Toyota and others talking about these kinds of things for a while. And I think Toyotas may still power the vehicle with the gas engine as well. But, you know, these, again, going to just that Ram Charger kind of setup is really cool. And we will see how that goes over. But they say total range for these range extender plug-in hybrids will be over 560 miles. They say that's including a fully charged battery and a fully gassed up tank. But pretty sweet. And again, we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think it's a great way to, again, electrify that Palisade kind of segment, which most likely will be a little more resistant to, you know, going over, you know, they'll have the Ioniq 9, but for people who still want to hold out, you know, you have kind of a stepping stone there and a bridge with some type of range extender or Palisade or something. But moving on to the regular hybrids here, which I assume also means plug-in hybrids. I didn't see any specific mention of plug-in hybrid. I'm not sure if those will go away in favor of these range extender things, or if we will also have plug-in hybrids with smaller range that still have the gas engine powering them as well. But moving on to those hybrids, there's next-gen hybrids coming, they say, and they're including them for the Genesis brand this time around as well, to have a total of 14 hybrids and go from 170,000 units per year in North America currently to 690,000 units per year by 2028. So massively growing their hybrid sales there by, you know, what, over 3 times. And so that's going to be pretty cool to see, you know, again, them really leaning into that hard, which is what everyone wants, at least right now, is the hybrid. So it makes a lot of sense. And to be able to do that here pretty quickly, and hopefully they'll get those out so that, you know, we have a lot of them here in the next few years. And the last big revelation here from this Hyundai Group presentation is that the whole Hyundai Group, I believe, will be switching to an Android automotive infotainment setup, they say. And unfortunately, if that teaser image is accurate, it'll consist of just a single center display there that's shown doing double duty of showing your speed as well as all the infotainment stuff. And, you know, this is kind of disappointing. First, just because, you know, I mean, most people, I think, like having gauges right in front of them. Maybe we'll have a head-up display to compensate for the lack of display in front of the driver. But I mean, yes, Tesla gets away with the center screen, and sure, it probably is great from a cost-cutting standpoint, but it really limits your interior design abilities if you're having to just stick a giant tablet in the middle of everything and the rest of it is just kind of nothing. I think Hyundai does a great job with all these cool different interior designs we see in various vehicles, and they do a really good job in general. And so, yeah, just kind of sad if they just go to this one thing. I hope that they at least keep Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and differentiate themselves from the other companies that are ditching that. But not excited about having to look over to the middle to see my speed. It's not great. But I mean, Tesla's not the only one that does it. You know, Volvo does it, and a couple others are trying to follow suit as well. So yeah, they say this operating system will debut in the 2026 GV90. So we should get more info on that next year, I'm guessing. So yeah, we will see how that plays out. And I hope that maybe they add in some more screens here, because especially, like, you know, passenger displays are becoming more and more popular and stuff. It's strange to just have, you know, one thing in the middle and that's it. But anyway, we'll have to wait and see. But lots and lots of info there, like I said. So let me know your thoughts on all that stuff in the comments below and what you think about Hyundai's future direction. And one final bit of Hyundai news here that's much more immediate is they announced some changes to the 2025 Sonata here this week. And the best news is that they're reintroducing the base SE trim here for 2025. And if you've watched my live streams and my other rants here, you know that, you know, I really wish that more companies would quit ditching all these base models and, you know, bring those models back to bring back affordability for people who don't need to have a fully loaded car. And I'm really happy that they've introduced this SE trim again. So it'll start at just $27,800, including destination, for a Sonata, which is a very nice car. I'll have a review on a Sonata coming here this fall, but it's a lot of car for, you know, that kind of money. It still gets, by the way, for this SE base trim, it still gets a 12.3-inch touchscreen, keyless start, alloy wheels, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, and a bunch of other stuff as well. Now, you do lose, like, they don't give you a leather steering wheel anymore, so the steering wheel has the urethane, you know, coating instead. But, you know, so there's a few little cost-cutting things there, but, you know, again, that's something some people have no problem, doing that. And it's also worth noting if there's only like $1,100 more to go up to the SEL, which gives you back that, nicer steering wheel and stuff. So, but just good to give people the options, for people who, again, just don't need everything. This is fine. And it's great that you can get a little bit of savings there. They also said that the N-Line version for 2025 will now get rear air vents, which I think is an often requested feature. So that's great. And so, yeah, just great to see Hyundai reintroducing, affordability and something we desperately need, I think, these days. But moving on here, Ford has debuted a very lightly refreshed Bronco Sport for the 2025 model year. So it gets tiny tweaks here to the front and rear bumper designs, leaving the rest of the styling as is. The bigger change is inside, though, where the whole dashboard is redesigned and throws out all of the climate controls as well as the tuning knob and the analog gauges and replaces them with a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster and a 13.2-inch infotainment screen, just like we see in the Escape. Powertrains carry over, meaning the 1.5-liter turbo 3-cylinder base engine and the 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder for the higher trims. But just like the Maverick, they'll lose a few horsepower due to new emissions controls here for 2025. But Ford didn't provide the exact new output, I believe, in the Maverick. It went from 250 down to, I think, something in like the 230s. But, yeah, not a big deal, I'm sure. Now, the other big addition for 2025 is a new Sasquatch trim to make the Bronco Sport more capable off-road than the current Badlands trim is. And on the outside, you get unique bumpers with the brush guard and steel bash plates and skid plates, along with a hidden tie down there in the front fenders, which is cool. Mechanically, it starts with the Badlands hardware, like the twin-clutch rear axle, which is better cooling for 2025, they say. But they add in 29-inch Goodyear Territory all-terrain tires that are developed specifically for the Sasquatch, along with Bilstein shocks with piggyback reservoirs and new springs that add 0.4 inches to the ride height and 0.6 inches to the suspension travel. It'll arrive in the first quarter of 2025, and other Bronco Sports will begin arriving in November, but there's no pricing for any of those yet either. And we have some teasers here this week, a bunch of vehicles being teased, a lot of debuts happening next week here. So first up is the next generation Audi Q5 that'll be revealed on Labor Day here in the US. And all we see here so far is a sketch of the headlight, which looks similar to the new lights we just saw on the new A5. And so I'll be covering that new Q5 here next week. Aston Martin also has a big debut on Labor Day here. So they're going to be debuting the new Vanquish, which I'm personally very excited to see. They've been teasing it a lot on social media here, and it clearly shows that it'll feature a twin-turbo V12. And do give us a few sound clips of it as well. And it sounds pretty similar to other Astons with that motor, but I'm just so happy that the V12 is sticking around here. And rumors are saying that it's going to have some enhancements to the engine as well, so we'll have to wait and see about that. We also get a few other quick close-up clips there, including one showing off an interesting new rear taillight design, which I'm a little iffy about. We'll have to wait and see how that actually looks with the full reveal. But yeah, I'll be covering that whole reveal here next week in next week's weekly update. And then one day later, the day after Labor Day, on the 3rd, Nissan will be debuting the new Armada, which they teased here this week, and it'll share its platform, of course, with the new Infiniti QX80. And so far, we've only seen the grille, which gets the red Nissan badge there on this one, along with those slats at the top of the grille, suggesting it'll either get a Pro 4X version or a Rock Creek variant. We'll see how aggressive they go. Rock Creek's more appearance, and the Pro 4X there is going to actually give it some actual off-road capability. So we'll see. Most likely, I'm guessing they'll go for the Pro 4X thing, but, see how they play that, and I'll be covering that next week. One day after that, on September 4th, we'll have reveals from Volvo on what they're calling their 90/90 day. And so in addition to marking what they say is a big moment in the launch of the EX90, which I'm guessing is maybe the first customer delivery, they'll also debut the refreshed XC90. And judging by the teaser, it'll get headlights that now illuminate only the edges of the Thor's Hammer design there instead of the whole thing, which looks pretty cool. And the hood has some interesting lines on it as well. We'll have to see, again, how that looks in regular light. But Volvo also says at the end of this teaser that there might be a surprise or two. So there's talk of an EX60 coming next year as the next logical addition, and also, being, I think, the biggest volume seller probably for Volvo still is the XC60. So I'm guessing probably EX60 if they are going to be showing off something new or teasing something new. But the saying a surprise or two, my far-fetched idea, most likely won't happen, but if they do include Polestar in their announcements here, there is the Polestar O2 concept, which is the cool roadster. There's a chance that maybe that's what they mean by O2, is the O2 concept gets a production version that we will see there, but I don't believe Polestar is included in this whole Volvo thing, but I'm not sure. Obviously they're under the same umbrella, but I'm thinking this day is just for Volvo, but we'll see what ends up happening, and at least we only have a few days here to wait to see. So anyway, but very interesting to hear that. Speaking of Polestar, for the last news here this week, their CEO from the very beginning of the inception of the Polestar spin-off brand here many years ago, that CEO is leaving here on October 1st. And he'll be replaced by Michael Lohscheller, who's an automotive executive veteran, working for large companies before eventually moving down and working for Opel, then VinFast very briefly, and then Nikola, which is the heavy-duty hydrogen electric, semi-truck maker. So seems like his career has been kind of interesting the past few years. There's no reason why the former CEO is leaving, but now bringing on this other, executive who seems to have some experience with trying to help out brands that are, maybe just starting off or struggling a little bit. This could hint at the struggles of Polestar right now, which, their sales aren't doing great because, their lineup is old. They just have the Polestar 2 while they wait for the 3 and the 4 to arrive. And I think production is now starting to begin for those, so hopefully that'll, come and give them some fresh air here soon. But yeah, I don't know about Polestar. I'm kind of wondering if they're just going to get folded into Volvo at some point here. But in the meantime, they have a new executive. Best of luck to him, and hope Polestar, gets to a better point here with all these new products. And then lastly, I want to thank all of you that are members of the Maran Motoring Club. So we did have a bunch of people who were able to join and rejoin this past week thanks to the numerous membership gifts that were given very generously by many of you here during the live stream last week. So I want to give a big thank you here to Kyle, Linda Hamill, especially Linda. She gave, I think, 3 different sets of memberships to, I think, 15 people total. So huge thanks to her especially. Also to Chad Yeager, Grand Admiral Thrawn, who all, again, along with Kyle, gave some memberships there in last week's live stream. So huge thanks to all of you for your generosity and allowing so many people to not only join, but also rejoin. Many of them where people are able to rejoin, come back into the Maran Motoring Club. So many thanks to all of you, and I'm sure they're very appreciative as well. But I also want to give a big welcome here to the new members. So big welcome to Patrick Rutherford, Steve Ski 85, Wayne Yim, and also TFIPW, who also joined on their own in last week's live stream. So hope you're all enjoying the membership perks so far, and looking forward to chatting with those of you who can make it here to the live stream here on Sunday night. But for anyone else that'd like to join and become a member, get that party answering, as well as all the other perks that come with being a member, there's always join buttons here on the video page, on the channel page, and a link in the description. But anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Please leave a like and subscribe to keep these videos coming, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.